Hello, Julian Mustangs. This is going to be the Math Spiral Review for May 7th. Let's go ahead and get started. The first problem is a word problem, so I'm going to go ahead, read it. Mike brought 5 packs of baseball cards and 7 packs of football cards. Each pack of baseball cards costs $4 and each pack of football cards costs $6. Write an equation to show the total cost M in dollars of the items Mike bought. So a couple of things to know first. I'm going to go ahead, 5 packs of baseball cards, and each of those packs costs $4. We also have 7 packs of football cards, and each of those football cards costs $6. Some things to note in the question is that we need to write an equation to show the total cost of M in dollars. When we put letters into math, especially at this level, all that's asking us to do is to ask for an unknown. So it's not anything fancy. It's just that we don't know what the total cost is going to be yet. So I'm going to go ahead and write that equation. I'm going to fit together. So I'm going to do 2 parentheses, one for baseball plus the amount of money that he spent on football cards. Okay, and that's going to equal M. That's what that M means here. So this is the start to our equation. When I go ahead and start with baseball, there are 5 packs, and each pack costs $4. So I'm going to multiply those 2 together to find out how much he spent on baseball cards. And then for football cards, he bought 7 packs, and each of those costs $6. So I'm going to multiply those together to find the total amount. When I put these together, I have 5 times 4, which is going to be $20. And then I'm going to add in together the 6 times 7 or the 7 times 6, which is my favorite. 6 times 7 is going to be 42. Those 2 numbers added together, I'm just going to bring this M down, are going to be equal to M. My last step would be then to add these 2 together. So 20 plus 42 is going to be $62, which is how much Mike spent. Okay. The next problem, select all that show 245 in unit form. It would be easy. The reason why I have a rectangle here is because I'm going to show place values. So I have ones, tens, and hundreds. It'd be easy if we just had one that literally stated 2 hundreds, 4 tens, and 5 ones, but none of these do that. So we're going to have to go ahead and explore this a little bit further. I am hoping that by the time I'm done, the discs in here will equal 245. So let's start with the first one. The first one, I'm going to make my pencil tip a little bit bigger. The first one is going to be 5 ones, 14 tens, so I have a bundle of 10, and then 4 left over, and then I have 100. Right away in the tens place, I see that there is more than 10, so I'm going to go ahead and circle those. I'm going to bring it over. A group of 10 tens is also equal to 100, so I'm going to cross it off to show that's left over. So what I have here is a 2 in the hundreds, a 4 left over in the tens, and a 5 in the ones. So this one does actually equal 245. And then I would proceed to do that for the next ones. So for the next couple problems, let me see if I can erase this here. So for the next ones, we're going to kind of do the same thing. Some of them I may do some shortcuts. So for this next one, I'm going to go ahead and make these a little bit better, make my lines a little bit different. So this is 20 in the tens place. So I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to put a group of 10 and a group of 10 to show the 20 in the tens place, and a 45 in the ones. So I'm going to show that that's a group of 10, a group of 10, a group of 10, a group of 10, and a 5. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to switch, because remember, you can only have 10 in one place value before you're going to have to carry it over. So I'm going to start in the ones place. I have 4 groups of 10, which means that this is going to go over here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then over here I have 2 groups of 10. So I'm going to go ahead and cross that and put it over here for 2 groups in the hundreds. So with that, what I have left over is I have a 2 in the hundreds, I have a 4 in the tens, and I have a 5 in the ones. So B is also a correct response for 245. The next one, I'm not going to draw out, because if I look at this, I see I have a 2 in the hundreds and a 45 in the tens place. What that would mean is that all of my all of my discs or my dots are going to be here in the tens place. So I will have nothing left in the ones. Those 5 tens are going to be equal to 50, not 5 ones. So C is definitely not going to be an option, even though it looks like it should be. Because of this word tens, this one's not going to work out for us. If we go to the last one is pretty straightforward. If we look at it, I'm going to go ahead and erase here. If we look at this last one, we'll see that it is also a possibility in our wheelhouse. So we'll do a 2 in the hundreds. So I'm going to make a 2 in the hundreds and then a 45 in the ones, which 45 means we have 4 groups of 10 and then 5 ones. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, since I see my ones place has more than enough, I'm going to take these 4 groups of 10 and I'm going to move them over and ensure that that's really 4 tens, right? Just like we have in the ones. So what I'm left with on this problem is 2 in the hundreds, 4 in the tens, and 5 in the ones for 245. So this is also going to be a good option for us. For the next problem, find 2 numbers that match the following. Rounds to 300 when rounded to the nearest hundreds place. So any number that you write needs to be rounded to that place value. This is really easy to do if you think about the rules. When we have 5 or more, we're going to up the score. And when we have 4 or less, we have to let it rest. So any number, so if I start in the 200s, any number that's 250 or higher is going to round to 300, because the 2 is going to look at this 5 and tell it what to do, and the 5 is going to tell the 2 to up the score. Same thing if it was 250, 260, 270, 280, 290. All those numbers are going to round to 300. So this is the lowest number that you could have. The highest number that you could have that would round to 300 would be 349, because this 4 is going to tell the 3 to rest. So the range of numbers that we're looking at here, you can choose any 2 numbers that range between 250, which would round up, or it can be less than 349, which means they'd round down. So any number between those 2 numbers will work for this problem. Okay, the next one, it says Jane drew this model. Can you shade an equivalent fraction? So right away I can tell if I'm looking at this that this fraction, if I look at this middle line, is cut in half. So an equivalent fraction for me to shade, if I would like, if I shaded the top half, that's an equivalent fraction. So this is 2/4 up here. This fraction down here is 1/2. It is the same thing. If I were to draw a dotted line in the middle, this is not equivalent, but it is the same exact fraction as up here. It's cut into fourths for 2/4. I could also cut this fraction like this and make it 4/8. I could have cut it into thirds and made it 3/6. There were multiple ways to cut up this circle to make it equivalent. You could have shaded in and made this circle 1/2. You could have made it 3/6. You could have made it 4/8. You could have made it 5/10. Any of those numbers would work to be an equivalent to 2/4 as long as you did not draw out 2/4 again. Okay. What is the value in decimal form of 10 hundredths? So if I look here, I see that I have 10 hundredths, which means in decimal form, this 0 needs to end in the hundredths place value. So if I were looking at place value, I'd have tens, ones, decimal, and then 10 THS for tenths. And then I'd have hundredths, H, and then THS for hundredths. So when I look at 10 hundredths, what I would be doing for this one is I'd plug in 0 for their 0 ones, decimal, and then I'd write a 1 and a 0, making sure that the 0 ended up in the tens place. Some of you may be looking at this and thinking, this looks a lot like a 1/10, and you would be correct, because in decimals, if we take or leave the 0, it's going to turn out the same either way. So 10 hundredths in decimal form could look one of 2 ways. 10 hundredths could look 0.10 for 10 hundredths. It could also be the same thing as 1/10 or be written this way. Either way, that's going to be the decimal form for this because of that place value. I could also look at the fraction. So I see that I have some zeros that could match up. So I could also take and cross out this 0 and this 0. And then I'd be ended up with 1 over 10. And that's going to give me that equivalent. That's why this 1/10 down here is also working out for us. Okay. And the last problem for today, draw an obtuse angle. If you remember correctly, an obtuse angle is going to be anything that's bigger than 90 degrees. So if our 90 degrees looks like this, like the corner of your paper, then you're also going to have an obtuse angle that's going to go like this, as long as it's bigger than 90 degrees. Okay. And then you would also draw an acute angle. So for the acute angles actually have to be less than 90 degrees. And I remember that because it's such a cute little angle. It's so small. So for an acute angle, I just have to make sure that it's less than this one up here. So I could draw something like this, and they can be turned either way. They can be drawn like this. They can be drawn this way. As long as this part right here is less than 90 degrees, you're all good. Okay, and that is going to be the May 7th spiral review. I hope you guys found this helpful.